Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast, where all accountants come to learn all the ways to grow your firm. And when you're in doubt, I am here to help you out. So if you're ready to learn and ready to grow your firm, then you're in the right place to sharpen your skills and increase your revenue. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. Our special guest is the founder of the American Institute of Certified Tax Planners. She has over 15 years of experience as a CPA and has worked with many top business owners and investors using proactive tax planning to help them keep more money in their pockets of what they've earned. Our special guest is an accomplished keynote speaker, teacher, best-selling author, and a mentor to a lot of tax professionals across the United States. So before we invite our special guest on to today's show, I know as an accounting professional that maybe you're used to taking on any client who knocks on your door, or maybe you're worrying about where that next client might come from, or you're tired of just not getting paid for your worth and your knowledge, and you're struggling with inconsistent cash flow. And you know what? It's really not your fault because nobody's really training you on how to fix these problems and really connect the dots. And that's why I created my Selling Without Ever Selling system. And I'm so excited that I'm offering a free coaching session for you so I can share this information to you. So let me help you get your ideal clients coming to you so you can build your dream practice and still have the time and money to enjoy with your family. If you would like to set a free strategy coaching session with me, head on over to theabundantcall.com if you've had an accounting business for more than 2 years. Once again, head on over to theabundantcall.com. And before we dive into today's episode, I want to invite you to take a screenshot of today's episode on your phone when you are finished listening to it and post it on your LinkedIn. And make sure to tag me, Michelle Weinstein, and our amazing guest, Dominique Molina, and share with us what is the most valuable lesson that you got from today's episode. So once again, I invite you to take a screenshot on your phone of today's episode, head on over to LinkedIn, post it, make sure to tag Michelle Weinstein and Dominique Molina, and let us know what is the most valuable lesson that you got from today's episode. Now, let's welcome our very special guest, Dominique Molina.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
Well, thank you for being back here on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. It's always awesome to have you here. We always get great reviews because you're always so entertaining.
I know, I feel like I'm home.
It feels like you're home. Well, hopefully everyone listening, it feels like they're home for them too, because you're always so insightful and you always know all the hot topics going on. And I know that one of the hot topics that we're going to chat about today is like, why do clients leave their current CPA, and like what's going on with all that, with the competition and, you know, like the cannibalism in this industry. And I know you have so much insight on it. So I thought we would just dive right into that topic today and see how we can support all of your fellow CPAs, accountants, EAs, bookkeepers out there. You know, what do they need to do different ultimately? So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I mean, you really nailed a hot topic on this, Michelle. It's everybody's really talking about and starting to experience the pushback that we're getting from clients because of companies like Intuit. Of course, they're the parent company of QuickBooks Online and TurboTax. And then there's a whole bunch of other new competitors that are kind of the new kids on the block, so to speak, offering bookkeeping services for as little as $125 or $150 a month. So that's a really great thing to be covering in your podcast today. And more importantly, talking about the impact that this can and will have on our industry and how to protect yourself and arm yourself against being impacted negatively from this.
Good. Well, I'm excited to talk about how everyone can protect and arm themselves. So that's really important so they can keep their power and do something a little different with your knowledge and your wisdom, because this is harming the industry for sure. So So why don't we start talking about, like, do you think this is really competition though? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, that's actually an excellent question, and a mistake that I want to help everybody avoid. Because if you think that this isn't going to impact you, let's say that you're listening to the start of this conversation and you're saying, yeah, that doesn't impact me because I'm not in competition with QuickBooks. I don't do people's QuickBooks files. I don't do bookkeeping. I don't do accounting. Be careful. Because I think it does impact every single one of us, even if they're not your direct competitor, so to speak. It's helpful to understand how people make their buying decisions. And we've talked about this before, Michelle, being that it is all about perception. And so what happens is you have a very well-known, reputable company that's now taken a step forward. You know, in April 2019, they launched their pricing tests on QuickBooks.com through the product so that they could reach directly out to their users. And they're able to purchase these live, it's called QuickBooks Live, and they're able to participate in these services for as little as $150 per month. I myself received a text from a friend that said, hey, I'm paying $327 a month. Do you think I should be looking at this because it's cheaper? That's human nature, right? Is you want to get the maximum value you can for the cheapest price possible. And it does all come back to, what do people know about what we do? And unfortunately, they don't really get the nuances of our work. They kind of they stick a label on us and either call us an accountant or a tax guy or gal. And right. In their mind, hey, my tax girl is going to take care of it. And so I don't have to worry. So when something like this comes out, they think, oh, you know, here's another accounting service or another tax service. And gosh, that's a pretty good deal. My person should be able to compete with that. And so you may find yourself getting asked questions. I know an awful lot of accountants are getting questioned right now about, hey, you know, is there any flexibility in your pricing? Because I've heard that Intuit is now offering this for a service and they're a little bit less. I can go directly through QuickBooks Online. You know, let's go ahead and cancel our appointment, for example. It all comes back to, what do people believe about what we do? And so even if you're not in direct competition, so to speak, with a QuickBooks or an Intuit, it is a problem for you because it does shape what people expect to pay for a service. They have an expectation in mind of what they think the going rate is for these types of services. And when we come back with something much higher than that, we now have to get over that hump with the shock factor.
Right. And that's why I think it's so important why selling value is the key to this, right? Like, that's probably one of the ways you're going to talk about today to protect and armor their firms and their businesses so you don't have clients leaving you, because it's probably more than just, you know, the $120 or $300 they're paying a month. There's other things you can do. So I know that people are comparing, right, like their services to Intuit and all these other things where it's $100 cheaper, whatever. But I think one of the most important things to realize is that if you're a business owner and you own an accounting firm, we do have to do something different, right? And it's the only way that you'll be able to really keep your clients instead of, you know, having clients leave you. And it's about why selling your value is so important. So I was wanting to know, like, what's the first thing that you think a firm owner should do to protect and armor what they have, and to explain to their clients and current clients how these different services that are popping up really aren't competition? How do they explain that?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that you can do if you're in this industry is, first and foremost, understand how our clientele make their buying decisions. And that does start with embracing and accepting the fact that they do lump us all together, and acknowledging that they don't really understand what we do, and putting yourself in their shoes. I refer to this as taking their perspective on something. We always have to take their perspective because we have to understand their mental thought process in this exchange in what we're doing. And so one of the things is, looking at the nature of the product. What we sell is highly personal and private information that requires a high degree of trust. And one of the ways that you get over that barrier, you get somebody to trust you, it takes time to build trust, right? You have to be able to give your word and keep your word for somebody to learn that they can trust you. And Intuit really does have an advantage over us on that because they've got this name brand recognition. They've got big time celebrities doing commercials. They bought Super Bowl ad time this year, and they have the budget that we do not. So what can you do? Well, we have to find ways to build trust in other ways. And that just means that it's going to take a little bit longer. Now, typically, really expensive engagements is going to be a longer buying process anyhow. A lot of times I'm meeting somebody who is charging premium fees for the first time, and there's a little bit of fear or frustration that, oh my gosh, they didn't buy right then. I suck at this, or I'm stressed because this didn't really work out. And what I have to say is, well, be patient because it takes longer to build up that trust, and there's far more trust required in a $30,000 tax planning engagement than there might be in an $800 tax return engagement. Far easier choice for someone to decide to spend $800 than it is to spend $30,000. So number one, understand how your customers make their buying decisions. Put yourself in their shoes. Take their perspective to say, gosh, if I was a customer and I've got a kind of a low value item here, and I'm talking about bookkeeping and accounting. You may have a master's degree in bookkeeping and accounting, but the problem is clients don't really understand what that gives them. We know that it gives them access to somebody who's got a lot of experience and knowledge, who's going to get it done right, where it doesn't have to be redone and all the old work thrown out. But they don't get that.
Yeah. So what's the second thing that you would recommend they do? Number one, how your customers make buying decisions and, really being patient, building that trust. Because like you said, an $800 engagement versus a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 is very, very, very different. But the second way to protect and armor their firms, so they don't lose clients and they're able to do something different.
Right. And that starts with distinguishing yourself. Make it very obvious how you're different from Intuit. And what I say about that is offer a different service. So I can stick a label on bookkeeping or accounting services, for example. I can call it the financial dashboard service for entrepreneurs, or I can call it a business owner's financial plan, or I can, I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head, but at the end of the day, it all boils down to the same underlying service. So you want to be able to instantly and obviously make that distinction in how you do something completely different. And it might be through your process of how you intake work. I don't know too much yet about this, the bots that are coming and doing some of this work using automation, but maybe having a different type of service where if Intuit wants everybody to scan everything, maybe you do something just a little bit different so that when you describe this service with a different name, people can actually see right away how you're different.
Yep. So distinguishing yourself and creating differentiation in your services.
Right.
Cool.
But that could also include maybe even looking at a software change. Everybody kind of uses QuickBooks because it's been the leader in the industry and had a monopoly on the industry for a long time. But there are other solutions out there. I know a lot of people right now are kind of looking at Xero as an option. There's a lot of automation built in. And so if you can go through that educational process with your audience to say, well, here's why I don't use QuickBooks. Here's why I don't use Intuit for this, this, and this. Here's why what we do is better and different.
Yep. Yeah. So not only on the software side, but also you said on the process side and the intake side. So there's so many variations on how one can distinguish themselves differently and differentiate themselves. The D and the D.
Right.
So what would be the third way for a firm owner to really protect and armor so clients don't leave them and they can do something different and really focus on the value and their D&D?
Yeah, I think another strategy there is if you do offer these types of services, connect them to something else that adds tremendous value. So I'm going to give you an example here. And for all of your listeners, Michelle, that offer financial advisory services in addition to accounting or tax work, this is a great strategy. What you're able to do is to show the value. This is your return on investment for the work that we're doing together, but you don't isolate the pricing. You bundle it together so that people don't really know exactly what they're paying for. And what that does is it makes it difficult to compare apples to apples because you're not piecemealing it. So in other words, let's say you do sell bookkeeping or accounting services. By including it with a list of other services that you offer, they're not able to say, well, I think I'm paying $327 a month for that bookkeeping service, and here comes QuickBooks Online and it's $150. Boom, now I'm going to go to QuickBooks because I recognize the name. I know I can trust them. They don't really know exactly what they're paying, but they do know that they're getting a whole bunch of stuff from you. Being that Intuit is just kind of dipping its toe in the water and experimenting with this stuff, you're creating this perception of, hey, but we do all this other stuff for you. That way it's obvious to the customer that they're not going to get the same service by switching just because of money.
Right. And not having it listed a la carte either, right? So it's not like if you're offering 10 services with your accounting, with your bookkeeping, you're not going to itemize it. So someone could go, oh, well, you're charging $275, where with Intuit is $325. You want to have a bundled package price on something like that.
Mm-hmm. Or, here's another way to have that work in your favor, Michelle, is let's say that you have a pricing list on your website, 10 times those prices. Now, when I say that, I imagine that makes people nervous, right? Because the first thought that might run through your mind is, that means people aren't even going to give me a shot. They're not going to call me. But think of the people who do. Now what you've done is you've created the expectation that, hey, you're going to be expensive. And so by the time the people do contact you who've seen that, they're very highly qualified to actually sit down with you and have that conversation. So in some ways, pricing lists can be helpful in that they are helping to create an expectation. And in doing so, you want to think about what expectation are you creating? Are you creating the expectation that you're offering the same service as someone because you use the same language to describe it, or because you're selling it piece by piece? Or on the other hand, are you creating the perception that, gosh, you're not cheap. That's kind of expensive. They must be really worth what they're selling here. And then offering additional things that your competitors are not.
Yep. No, that's, I love it. That's awesome. Is there anything else that you think would, maybe a bonus tip? Because I always know you've got something up your sleeve, but some other bonus or some other tip that you've thought of that we could leave them with, on how to really do something a little different, focus on the importance of value, focus on these 3 areas of protecting and armor that we just discussed so clients don't leave you. as the CPA, as the accounting professional listening today so they don't lose clients? Anything else?
Well, I would focus on the experience. That's sort of the new fad right now with everything going to automation and so many emails and so many automated text messages. It's just noise. People aren't even hearing what we do anymore. And so what that's doing is it's making experience much more valuable to the user. So think about what kind of experience someone gets when they're interacting with your firm. And are they just getting emails? Are they just getting texts? Again, what you're doing is you're kind of lumping yourself in with those competitors there. What can you do to really wow the client? How can you create that wow experience? It might have to do with what happens when they walk in the door. Are they met with a really fancy coffee maker and they can get any kind of coffee flavoring they want and all the toppings? Or do they come into a standard office and they're asked, do you want a drink of water? Please wait for the next available agent, sort of thing, right?
Right.
So there's little touches that you can do to create that wow experience so that it leaves people feeling really good about the fees that they pay you.
Yep. And I think that's super important. And what would be a wow experience? Because I know there's a lot of people listening that have a business where it's all 100% virtual, right? So they're meeting on Zoom and they're doing 100% virtual business. What would be a creative wow factor that Miss Molina knows in her head that would just be a really great thing for someone listening to implement today?
I think two things come to mind, Michelle, and that are especially important with virtual businesses. And that is that what we miss out on the virtual side, we need to try to make up the best we can. And that is that we don't have FaceTime. And I do think there's some value in seeing somebody and looking them in the eyes and being able to shake their hand. And we don't have that in a virtual setting. So to the extent that you can, adopt technology that allows you to do this. And that might include, sending a web camera to your clients. If they're going to sign up for my premium fee service, they're going to get a wow package in the mail from me that has things that kind of demonstrate our firm personality. It has my favorite candy bar in it. Why? Because that makes me happy and I want to share it with other people. Have you ever tried this? Oh my gosh, this is amazing. It includes things like the webcam so that when we go to have our meetings, we can have that face-to-face. Do I really care about a $40 webcam when I'm charging somebody $30,000? No, but it does create this wow factor for them so that when they get that package in the mail from me, wow, it's impressive. It leaves a very lasting impression, and it allows me to recreate looking into their eyes through that virtual experience.
No, I love it. And just to end it, what is your favorite candy bar? So maybe the listeners listening are going to send you a candy bar. And if you guys click on the show notes below, I will put all of Dominique's contact information and you can send her favorite candy bar. So what is it?
Well, have you had those Take Fives? They're amazing little candy bars. It's like a candy bar, but it has a pretzel in it. And the pretzel is like a normal pretzel with salt. There's something about like the saltiness, the caramel, the chocolate. It's all together in one bar. It's called a Take Five bar. I'm sure the 5 means something, but I can't get over the salt and the pretzel. So it's got crunchy, it's got
So that's probably
savory.
What it is. Salt, pretzel, chocolate, caramel, and then there's one other ingredient. So that's how you get Take 5.
There you go.
We will make sure to go on Amazon. All of your information is going to be in the show notes below. Thank you so much, Dominique, for being here today with us on the Abundant Accountant podcast. It's always an honor to have you.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
What an amazing episode with Dominique Molina. It was always such an honor to have her here on the Abundant Accountant podcast. And really talking about, how you can avoid losing a sale and why do clients maybe leave you and, how competing on price alone just really isn't going to make ends meet, right? So what is the one thing that maybe you can implement from today to protect and armor yourself, right? Like understanding how your clients make buying decisions. That could be one of the first ones. Or really, how can you distinguish yourself in the marketplace, and how can you make yourself different than Intuit, or even different than the other accountant or CPA down the street? And really about thinking, how do you offer these services, right? Because you can't just compete on price. And maybe it's like working with one of those financial advisors, or thinking about the return on investment that you get from the different services that you offer. So keep all that in mind, and please do share with us on LinkedIn, what is the one thing that you can implement today? What's that one game changer that can make the biggest difference in your firm? So make sure to tag us on LinkedIn. I'm Michelle Weinstein and Dominique Molina. Take a screenshot of this episode. And also, if you've enjoyed this week's episode, we would be grateful if you would take a minute, leave a written review on iTunes, because I love to read them. And this will also help other accounting professionals just like you grow a successful firm. Thank you all so much for listening. I wanted to wish each of you a very happy holiday season with you and your loved ones, and also a happy new year. I will see you on January 1st on our next new episode. Have a great holiday and happy new year.